screen right now. Hi. Oops. I realized I forgot something there, and I probably just blew out your guys' ears. So let me know if I'm doing that or not. How's it going, everybody? What do we think? What do we think of the Jack Links 500? Did I? Let's see. I know I had the oops. Okay, we're all good. So I didn't blow your ears out. At least I just didn't show up on your screen. Yes, that is true. I am a professional forgetter, and I have the Jocko Flacco shirt I interviewed Steve Phelps in. That is its claim to fame. But how's it going, everybody? Let me know in the chat. We're going to talk all about the race at Talladega. What did you think out of 10 of this race? I'm seeing people say it's boring with a good finish. 3, 4.5, 6 with a question mark, 8.2, 6. Let me know. We have the poll running. And we will look at those super chats. I appreciate all of them at the conclusion of the stream after we talk more about Dega. What did we think? And then after that, I can ask you what we thought of Fox's direction at the end. What did we think of all the commercials from 9 to 5 to go? I'm saying too clean. Okay, we cannot, as a fan base, complain about how sloppy it's been and how yesterday was, and then complain because they didn't crash today. We can complain about the racing, but the crashing we don't need to complain about. A lot of people saying, let's see, Fox was a joke, 7.8. Jocko Flacco, yes, I knew that you guys would love that. Yeah, a lot of thoughts for sure on this one. Austin Cindric, the winner by 0.022 seconds, 22 thousandths, I believe is how you say it. At least that's what the booth was whispering there at the end. Winning that over Ryan Preece, inspirationally, did not flip tonight. Kyle Larson with the third place finish. And I just want to say, in the chat Wednesday night, many of you laughed at me for saying he was a dark horse pick for the win. Comes home with a third place finish. William Byron fourth. Joey Logano hang the banner. He got his top 5 finish, first one of the year. Hang the banner for Joey. He broke through that glass ceiling of sixth or fifth. From there, we got Noah Gragson, who gets a 6th place run. Chase Elliott, 7th. Carson Hocevar rode the Dente to 8th. Alex Bowman in 9th, meaning that Hendrick finishes 3rd through 9th today. Bubba Wallace with a top 10 gets a 10th place run. Suarez in 11th. 12th is Austin Dillon. Michael McDowell, fastest lap of the day with a 47.9, finishes 13th, 14th, Ricky Stenhouse, 15th, Custer, then Reddick, Briscoe, Gilliland, Gibbs, and Eric Jones, the top 20. Pole sitter Zane Smith was a 21st place run. Ross Chastain threw a aggressive block trying to keep people behind him. Didn't work. He finished 22nd. Denny Hamlin mired behind it. The only one it did work on, he finishes 23rd. Herbst 24th. Ty Dillon in 25th. AJ Allmendinger 26th. Those were the lead lap cars. 1 lap down for Haley in 27th. As well as for 28th, Alfredo, Josh Berry, and Kyle Busch, who, if he had no luck at all, it would be better than the luck he's had. And SVG, one of the only ovals that he could have got a top 30 at this year. He doesn't. 31st, a lap down as well. John Hunter Nemechek, 2 off the pace. Same with Cody Ware in 33rd and JJ Yaley in 34th. Out of the race were 35th place BJ McLeod, 36th place Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell 37th. 38th, Brad Keselowski, who coming in here in the pre-race show, if you watched, I had said that he's in a must-win scenario, in a must-win position. And he had about the worst possible outcome he could get, only beat by Ryan Blaney with his 4th DNF of the year. I'm sure we all know a Blaney fan who's probably on suicide watch right now. So go check on your local Blaney fans. Though that is the finishing order. I'll put them on screen. Let me know how and who I inevitably spelled their names wrong of in the chat. And let me know out of 10. What did you think of Artie Kempner's last race? What did you think of that commercial break with 9 laps left to 5 to go? What did we think about that, guys? I'm pretty sure that you guys are very, very happy with that. Yes, Spencer, 3 more weeks until we get to Prime. And yes, Tyler, a Braden Movick comment there for sure. I saw that chat. I saw how he was talking. A lot of people very happy with Artie going. A lot of people not happy at all. And I agree. International stream is the way to go. I guess that's one thing the Saudis do better than us, not have those commercials. As for the race itself, 188 laps. We did not get an overtime finish, which I guess is another one we could hang the banner on. 4 cautions for 22 laps, 3 hours, 10 minutes, 50 seconds, 67 lead changes on the day, though let's be honest, a lot of that also had to do with green flag stops and gridlock. Overall, let's talk about the finish first, because a lot of the talk yesterday was on, the crash and the caution and all of that. And, I believe Eric had put out that the truck race at Atlanta was the only super speedway race to this point that did not have a controversy or a caution or both end the race. And he was right until today, that they luckily did not have a big crash. They had lappers. I will say the lappers at the end, I think, is what won Cindric the race. That extra bit of draft that he was able to sniff off them, that was probably the difference of just getting that nose ahead. And I will say this too. Austin Cindric has had a quietly really good year so far. So remember, he had a 50-point penalty earlier this season. So coming in here today, he was 29 points out of the cut line in 22nd. You add those 50 points back, and I believe he'd be plus 24 over, or no, plus 23 over Kyle Busch, which would have put him about 13th, 14th in the standings. Basically like the kind of year that Buescher had coming in here. So was definitely, definitely not a bad or a Mickey driver this year. He's actually been pretty good. You got to give him credit there. It did feel kind of like an NR 2003 finish a little bit. And by the way, fastest lap of the day, Michael McDowell in the 71. At least that's what NASCAR.com has on their end. As for the package itself, there's no real change. There were moments like the end of stage 1, I thought was racier, and we had moments at least, but it was not great by any means. We had the same gridlock problems as before. Of course, we had the fuel saving, which I guess at least we have the visual appeal of having 4 wide cars and people actually kind of bumping into each other at times instead of just, riding the Earnhardt line at the top for 50 laps or whatnot. But it wasn't like it was all that great. I personally would probably give it like a 5 or so. It's just kind of just a middle of the line race. Is it better than some of the other races with this package? Yes. Is that saying much? Not really. Looking at what you guys are voting on the poll, you guys are still skewing positive, but it's definitely not the same as, say, the Daytona 500 or races last year. And you know what? It was, I'll give them that. They did have their moments at least today. The fuel mileage, when done right at a super speedway, can actually be really fun, especially the last couple laps when you have the different groups that are trying to move around. You have, I believe, Ross Chastain, who was blocking the Toyotas coming up, and Carson Hocevar, the only one that was able to actually make his way up through that. But when you come off of the Gen 6 era, the way it was at the end, 2019 to 2021 at these tracks, and then you have this, it's still a letdown because it's still, I think, pretty fresh in everybody's memory how fun those races were. And the last stage, for the most part, it was just gridlock. And I think that's the part that people are going to be remembering about this, outside of, I can't get over the fact. Sorry, I have to go on this tangent. I can't get over the fact that they went to caution, or not to caution. Might as well have went to caution. Went to commercial with 9 laps left until 5 to go. I know it was side by side. That's great and all, but even for Fox standards, that's bad. That's like one last middle finger from Artie to NASCAR fans after how much we've criticized him for the last 5 to 10 years. It's just so bad. I can't believe, 10 years ago, had you told me, even when Fox was starting on the decline in like 2014, 15, 16, if 10 years ago you had told me that I would be just openly wishing for NBC or TNT or Prime now at this point to come back instead of Fox Sports, I would have called you crazy. I really would have. But the mighty have fallen, and that's for sure. But for the most part, the big talking point of the final stage was after the Toyotas kind of took control of the lead at the end of stage 2, and early on, it was Toyotas versus Fords for a bit and Chevys, and then the green flag stops in the last 25 laps. Toyota started it with Carson Hocevar being at the tail end of it, taking a half-second quicker stop, and then cycling out ahead of them. And again, I have the results on my end, and the Toyotas, I believe the top one from that group might have been Bubba Wallace. So maybe he followed Hocevar up there. But outside of him, the top one would be Tyler Reddick outside the top 15, Briscoe, Gibbs. The Toyotas just were not able to overcome one block, which I think personally at a super speedway, that's probably an issue. If one block is all it takes to ruin an entire line of drafting and have the entire group not be able to recover individually, even outside of the one or two that made it by. I don't blame Chastain. Like I see people, like I see, I'm not a single you out a little bit saying you're mad at Chastain. Why? He did what he had to do. This is the meta now, is to block those lines because you could make up 10 or 11 spots in doing so. It's the box that these teams have been put in. The Fords were able to come out as well. In the next one, that's where Priest got out in front of that group, and that's what got him in position to go for the win. And then of course the rest pit, and that's where the 8 and the 21 were speeding. But from there, the group that was able to benefit from it was that first one, or not the first one, the last one to pit, because Cindric, with the Hendrick cars of Byron, Larson, and Bowman behind him, cycled out. The fast ones that would have been able to get up to him quicker were bogged down with that block, and it ended up being Priest who made his way up. And so it was basically whoever won out of pit road would be the ones who were going for the win at the end. If you really trace it back to it, that was the fight for the win. You did have the 24 make it up for that time as well. And I will give Priest this. He was actually able to make a move, and that's what got him up there ahead. But that's really what decided this race. It is crazy to say that with over 10 to go, 25 to go for some, that pit stops that far from the finish decided not only just who would go for the win, but who exactly came out first would be the ones going for the win rather than even those in the group. Because we've had that before. Just think like if 2015 had gone all the way, the fall one had gone all the way without the caution at the end. The leaders of that one for the most part did, but you were able to see others make their way up, and you really just can't see that at this point. And so it's why I say like 5. I'd say a 5 out of 10. I did not think it was as horrid of a race as a lot of you guys did. I get being pissed off, especially after the last 3 races we've had at Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol. Those have been very disappointing as well. And I don't think even if it's a decent race next week, you're going to be happy because we're going to Texas next before we go to Kansas. This is the way the racing is now. And I think the big thing that a lot of people have to bring up, and I brought it up this morning, is that as much as we talk about the short track package, with the emphasis NASCAR and TV has put on the super speedways, these races do need to be elevated in quality when it comes to the racing itself. And like I said in our pre-race show this morning, it wasn't me who had initially said that. The one who got it in my mind was when I was able at Kansas in 2019 to hear it out of the lips in person, talking to Jim France about it. He made it a point. And it was a correct point then, 6 years ago, and it's a correct point now, today, that they do need to get this fixed at this point. We can't just have mediocre super speedway races when this is what the majority of people who don't watch NASCAR will see when we have it in front of the most eyes. Which is why I'm banging my hand on the table, not too much so I don't ruin the camera, but banging my hand on the table. We should at least maybe once every 3 or 4 years get that preseason thunder back like we did in 22 before we got the next gen car. I know that we'll talk cost savings and all of that. I kind of also bring up what Parker Kligerman said of these, Cup teams, or the Cup Series is getting $1.1 billion a year. So maybe it's on them to have a better budget. But I don't see why maybe once every 3 or 4 years we can't have a day or two of testing for fans to show up at Daytona and get that hype built up. But hey, you know what? If you liked it, because I see a lot of people that are disagreeing with me and they really like it, that's on you. And I'm seeing some telling me like, oh, you think the 90s are good? No, the 90s super speedway races really weren't that good either. And I also ask, how old do you think I am? I was barely around for the end of the 90s, let alone to see Dale and Jeff go at it in person. I'm 27, believe it or not. And this is not because there wasn't enough crashes. We did have crashes. We had a incredibly hard crash with Bell and Buescher at the end of stage 1. We had the crashes into the pits. Like, there were crashes, but I'm not watching for crashes. I'm watching for actual racing through the pack, not just fuel saving for 2/3 of the first 2 stages and then going at it at the end and then having just 2 wide gridlock back and forth. I want to see better. It was not horrible, but it was not a great race either. If you want to say good, go for it. It visually was appealing, but it wasn't exactly the greatest either. Looking through some of the other ends of it here, there was one underdog driver who took a lot of attention at one point, and I want to shout him out. Anthony Alfredo, who, let me see what the final amount of laps led for Old Fast Pasta was in the 62. 19 laps led today. Most laps led in a race by the number 62 since 1958. So there's that, I guess. If you want to like cool little facts and stuff that I'm going to probably throw into a random driver segment in 3 years, take notes now. And also shout out to Fast Pasta. It's always fun saying that. And I know that if Rissa's watching, she's going to giggle at that because she always does. But for the most part, it was the second stage was all leading up to those stops, which again is the same old, same old. Like I said earlier, though, the smart move and a different move I appreciated was the 11, the 19, the 35, and the 54. 4 Toyotas all working together, all pit before the end of the stage. And that's why those Toyotas were up there leading at the final stage as well. Stage point wise today, Kyle Larson wins his first super speedway stage. So I don't know if you want to point in the greatest driver in the world conversation, have fun with that. For what it's worth. Byron second, Stenhouse, Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Hamlin, Allmendinger, Cody Ware. Cody Ware actually raced in the top 5 for a solid portion of the race today. Herbst and Ty Dillon, the top 10 in the first stage. And trust me, I'm kind of working my way back, but we'll definitely talk more about that first stage. The thing is while I took a good amount of notes, I won't be honest. It's more just the same things over and over again. And it's, save fuel for a bit, have different lines of drivers coming in, race a lot at the end, stage ends. Because second stage was Bubba, Logano, Larson, Cindric, Hocevar, Preece, Reddick, Gilliland, Barry, and Smith. But I do want to talk about the first stage because that's where I think a lot of stuff came up that is very much talkable and a lot. First off, 3x3, 4x4 for a lot of it. I'll say this, it looks cool. I don't care what you say. There's a reason that I am using 3 and 4 wide racing in my thumbnails for these races. It looks really awesome. Unfortunately, it's usually going about, depending on where they're at in the pack, 40 to 75% throttle. I was actually following the throttle of AJ Allmendinger at one point because I have it on NASCAR.com, the inputs. And at one point in the back of the pack, as he was able to basically be pulled around by the draft, AJ Allmendinger, I think, was at 25% throttle, which is kind of crazy to say. Obviously, it's the draft, so that stuff has happened before, but that much when the rest of the pack is basically racing for control of who can slow down the field the most. It was kind of funny seeing that because at one point you had Michael McDowell, who was really racing against Zane Smith, as well as a lot of others back and forth. And they all wanted to have control of the race without going overboard and using all of their fuel up, which I guess that was kind of funny. But it was, again, is very much the same thing we saw before. The big change was lap 41. We start the green flag pit stops, and that's when the first crash comes in, takes out some really, really big favorites. In the middle of the pit cycle, they're coming into the pits, and a few of the cars come together. Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney turned in it. Kyle Busch damage. He was able to recover and then just shot himself in the foot later. Bowman scrapes by, gets a little damage, but he's fine. But that knocks out Blaney and Brad Keselowski right off the bat. Blaney, 4th DNF of the year, but again, he should be fine. I got to see. I believe... Yeah, he came in here plus 77. He'll be fine. Brad Keselowski, though, people, I don't think realize just how horrible he's been. He came in here 31st in the points today, 68 points out of the playoff cut line. Noah Gragson, who was only 10 points behind him, finished 6th today. He'll easily leapfrog him. Riley Herbst probably won't. So I'm assuming Brad Keselowski left Talladega today, probably 32nd in the points. I would guess, if I had to venture and guess, probably, I don't know, 80, 85 points out. I think at this point, you just got to say that it's must win the rest of the year. Total must win the rest of the season for Brad Keselowski. And all of the eggs, I think, need to be put into the Atlanta and Daytona baskets. Maybe RFK can bring him a good car here or there. But this is like, 2009 Dale Jr. levels of bad. Even when he has a decent enough run going, it's minus 95. Holy hell. Damn. Yeah, it's must win at this point. 95 points back with 16 races remaining until then. And this is not even taking into account the other winners that are inevitably going to be had. I mean, he'd have to make up 6 points a race, which doesn't seem like much, but if you had 3 or 4 different winners, I mean, he'd probably have to make up 10 to 12 points a race on the cut line, with adding in those winners to feel safe in any way. It's definitely a go for the win. I guess that's what he gets for making the funniest NASCAR commercial that we will have all year. And of course, after that, calamity just sort of continues. We get it back going about 10 laps later, and this is where Denny Hamlin bumper hooks Christopher Bell, sent him and Buescher into the wall. Buescher smacks the wall with, I believe, the rear end of the left side of the car, whereas Bell was just basically head on and just crushed that thing. And it was very similar to Connor Zilich's crash yesterday. Not exactly the same, but very similar in the hits. So, overall, the first stage to me was the big action stage. I want to check just to be sure, but I believe this is the 4th Talladega race in a row. And I had actually called it when I predicted it. I predicted it wrong in how it happened. I thought there'd be a crash with 7 to go, like there always is at a super speedway. But I believe this is the 4th Talladega race in a row with only 4 cautions. Obviously the 2 stage cautions, and then you add in, 4th one in a row with only 4 yellows. But I'll say this, with going back to Cindric too. I know we're kind of all over the place, but there is a good amount back and forth. And then there he is. There's our favorite Blaney fan. And we know he's alive at least. At least I know you're alive. Good to see you. The People's Champ 42. Cindric, we had talked about it beforehand as well, that these Penske guys, they lead all these laps, run up towards the front, and then it's just, as long as they don't get taken out, they'll probably win. And we saw it happen today. We saw it finally happen today. Good to see you, Brer Bear. Thought I wouldn't notice that. And at this point, with how Cindric's been, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another win. And we had talked about it beforehand as well, before the season on NWP, which, by the way, is this week on Wednesday at Danny's channel. It'll be the last stream I ever do in here, because we'll be moving the next day. We talked about it with the way that the playoff schedule has been changed this year. Adding in flat tracks that work well for the Penske cars is, if they get in there, they'll be pretty good. First round of the playoffs is Gateway, which is where Cindric won last year, New Hampshire the next week, and then we go back to Talladega. I don't think he's making some wild run to the Final Four, though it would be funny as hell if Phoenix's reign of terror on the Cup finale side of things ended with a Cindric championship when he ran like 10th all year. But I will say, like, he could be a fringe dark horse contender for a round of 8. I think definitely can make the round of 12 this year. Weird shit happens. Let's not pretend that there's a big enough sample size there. But there is at least an argument to be made that he might be the second strongest Penske car of the 4 Penske aligned cars right now. The speed has been there, even if the finishes haven't. The penalty is really what nerfed him points wise, and why people have been like, oh, it's same old Cindric running 22nd. Well, it's like he's only running there because he got a race's worth of points taken away, or whatever it was. I definitely think that he should be somebody to watch, to be a spoiler for an actual contender in one of the first 2 rounds. Like, oh, how did he get in, but say Larson didn't, or whoever it wouldn't be. Thank you, John. Yes, drop a like, subscribe if you're new. We do this after every single race. The only thing that would stop me from doing it is if a tornado hit the house or my kid was being born. That's about it. So appreciate it a lot. Again, I wish there was a ton I could talk about with it, but it was very much like, to me, it was just cyclical of save fuel for a bit, go all out, after pit stops, end stage, maybe have a crash here or there, save fuel for a bit, pit stops, go all out, save fuel for a bit, pit stops, go all out. But hey, there's plenty for sure that we'll have to talk about. I've seen a lot of your guys' comments, and let's look into the super chat side of it. Of course, there'll definitely be more we can talk about, and you guys will bring it up as we go. So I'll keep an eye on it. First one here from Bailey for the 2 says, a commercial with 9 to go. What a way to go out. Yes, I guarantee that won't be a Monday Night Football problem, though. Just one last middle finger to us NASCAR fans. Alex for the 2 says, a modern day Dega race that was really clean. It was a clean race. And I think we do need to at least appreciate, and again, this is how far down the bar has been. I guess, I could put the hang the banner on the bottom if I wanted to on this. We did get a clean race to the finish. No big crash, no overtimes, no stupidness. Say what you will, at least with that. Hang the banner, I guess. Let's see. 3 here says, shocked that some people aren't satisfied with a close, clean finish for once. Blows my mind. Finally, we don't have an overtime crapshoot. Cut Fox off. That's the thing. I'm not mad about a clean race. I'm not mad about the finish being clean, especially. I'm not really even mad. It's just more like I think that the super speedway package needs to be jump started a lot and needs work. It's a middle of the line race, which is better than some of the races we've gotten so far this year with it. The Polish hardware store for the 20 says, Austin Cindric did it. I'm gonna cry. Let's effing go too. And I see your profile pic, so I definitely can see why you're happy. Congrats on your driver's win. That and his performance so far this year might have, if his job wasn't any jeopardy, have saved his job and been really good for long term for him. Vikings all day 005 for the 5 says that has to be the cleanest finish to a plate race I've seen in the stage racing era. I'm shocked. Yeah, and I'm glad that we did have that. I don't want a crapshoot, and I think we should be happy because that's what we've been asking for. We've been asking for there not to be a caution thrown at the end, not to have a bunch of overtime finishes, not to have a big one that ends it or whatever. And we got our wish on that. And to be fair, they did go definitely back and forth, and there was contact in the pack and all of that. It's just I think the entirety of the race is more, I think, what at least I and a lot of other people are maybe critical of. SW for the 5 says, now that's a Dega race, not perfect, but I'll take it. Congrats to Cindric. Awesome job for Bubba Rocket. Through 20th to 10th place, 8 out of 10 for me. Yeah, again, if you're happy with it, I mean, it is definitely better than the last couple. And don't let me change your mind on it. If you enjoyed it, enjoy it. Hunter here with the 5 says, Cindric, top 5 super speedway driver in Cup right now. Definitely. Especially when you add in Atlanta, you see it as the Daytona 500 win. I don't see how you can't really say that he isn't a really top level super speedway guy right now with the way that things have changed up. Like back in the day, it was like Denny Hamlin was definitely up there. But now you see some get better, some get worse, and he's one of the guys that definitely got better with this. Marky Mark here with the 2 fan speak says, at least it wasn't an overtime finish. 5 out of 10. See, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm not really upset, not really crazy about it. I'm just sort of meh, which I'll take that, especially not only after the other super speedways, but the last couple of weeks of just garbage racing we've had. I will 100% take just a normal race. I will take that. Let's see. Captain Ford Guns with the 10 says, another race, another heartbreaking day for this RFK boy. We have reached peak eternal sadness. It's been a very rough season being a Brad fan. I'm just thankful that Priest was able to finish second. Yeah, I mean, again, it sucks that your guy came that close. But Priest, I'll say this, a top 5 for Priest, even if it's that close and the disappointment of not getting a win, at least he finished with all 4 wheels on the ground and going forward. He's very much entered as the modern era Elliott Sadler at these tracks. As for Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, the Buescher one is rough. Brad Keselowski is just horrid this year. There's no other way really to put it. Fred Dog with the 2 says, enjoyable, but ultimately forgettable race, 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, even if you liked it, this definitely is probably not going to be one of those races that you're like, oh my God, 10 years from now, I'm going to tell everyone where I was, what seat I was sitting in for the 2025 Jack Links 500. But at the same time, people that disliked it, I really don't think that 10 years from now, you're going to be like, man, I remember that race. It was on par with 2013 Daytona 500 and 2000 Daytona 500 and the Brickyard in 2008. Like, just in the middle. It's just, it was just a chill guy. Let's see. Continues C. It'll pop up. I miss when the Gen 6 car used to draft or just a third lane in general when they are hammering down, less opportunities to be made. And that's the thing. I think that there needs to be at least more opportunities to make moves. You can definitely see they're starting to get the ability more to make runs. And I think there was that positive at the end of stage 1, especially. There were 3 lines. There were moves that were able to be made. I think it's just more now you need to see how you can continuously do that. So I think that's the next step to this. Better and easier said than done. I will not pretend to be smart enough to know how to do that. That's why they hire smarter people than me to do this. It's why I'm complaining into a mic on YouTube about it rather than having a wrench in my hand and fixing anything that I might have a problem with. Reverend Rasheem Hall Stewart with the 222 says, do you think that Kyle Busch leaves RCR this year? I think so. And I think a dark horse candidate, especially if Zilich does not get moved up to Cup right away, would be Trackhouse maybe for a stopgap year. Though I've heard crazier rumors, but I have no confirmation on them, so I don't want to put stuff out there until I know for sure from people who would know. SW for the 2 says Chastain's move is pretty stupid, but it works. That's the thing. I'm not crazy about those moves when you're going 170 and you're trying to block someone going 190, 95, give or take. But that's the position they're in with the way it is now. But at the same time, there's been no penalty for that. So I don't see, really where the problem is other than my own code, if you will. I don't think there's really too much more to say about it unless NASCAR steps in or drivers really start speaking out about it. stupid move, but it's again part of the meta. Mandude03 for the Canadian 5 says Fox should absolutely be ashamed of their production. How NASCAR and Fox can see this race and say that everything is fine needs to be banned from TV forever. Yeah, it was a bad broadcast, but that's Fox for you nowadays. I honestly didn't think the first two stages were too bad, other than the incessant commercials, but that's been the thing forever for Talladega. Big race, big money, big commercial breaks. The ending, though, that was the problem. I think that Fox had planned on having a big one or a red flag, and they were waiting for that to happen at the end and then run their commercials. And when you look at that side by side with the CW yesterday, who I believe said that with 27 or whatever it was to go in that restart, that if we go green to the end, no more commercials. It's night and day difference. And CW is not perfect. There's still plenty of things to talk about and chat with that. But it is night and day difference. I don't think Artie Kempner is going to completely change it, though. I don't think Artie Kempner being gone is going to change it. I really don't. Let's not spam. Let's put you in timeout. How about that? Yeah, I don't think it's going to fully change it, unfortunately, though. I wish maybe we'll see some minor things, but I think the rest of the year is going to be mostly the same. Any big changes will be next year. Let's see. Derek here for the 2 says, I'm happy Cindric won it. Was the right winner. Yes, another part 2. I think the right car won today. Right car, right team. I think they definitely were the best ones at the end there. They were up front for a good majority of the day. I know Joey Logano was mad at him for basically not giving him a push that would have crashed him. Maybe that's why Joey always crashes in so many of these races. I'm looking back at it here, and I believe stage 2, I finished 4th, so got good stage points with it. If he's able to claw his way back to the top 10, that could help with playoff points. Definitely. Bryce with the 5 here says, all I'm happy about is that the race finished. All I will say is I've said it for a while, get rid of stage cautions. I'm all for getting rid of stage cautions, at least at road courses and super speedways, at least to start. I'd be all for it. Keep stage points, ward that as you will. All good with that. But as for the cautions, I don't think we need them, because they're the excuse that, well, we won't throw up commercials during the race, I think goes completely out the window when you literally do it all the time anyway. So we might as well stop using that as the excuse. We're just trying to bunch it up at this point. Let's see. Z06 Paul for the 5 says 2 races now where the driver everyone wanted to win didn't win. God damn it. I mean, I guess if you're talking Priest, then sure. But honestly, Cindric's not that bad of a guy. I honestly think he's actually one of the funnier guys in the Cup Series if they just give him a mic to talk into. Let's see. AGT 3.7 for the 5 says, this is the hardest I've taken a second place finish in motorsports. I've been a Priest fan for years. That finish really hurt me. I know. Hurt for me is what you said. I know it's got to be tough. I mean, as a junior fan, I can say all day, like, oh, be happy, after everything's happened. But like, I remember 2014, Dale Jr. finished like 3rd at Sonoma, right behind Edwards and Gordon, and I was all upset that he didn't get the win because of how much of a run he put on. Same with those other years where he'd be close in a bad year. And this isn't even a bad year for Priest. He came in here 15th in the standings. He's sure to gain a good amount of points. He's been a very solid, I would argue, almost on the level of Buescher driver this year, battling for the number 1 RFK guy this year. So I do think he'll have more opportunities. I really do. I think he'll have more opportunities as the year goes. Let's see. Geralder Fall says, as embarrassing as it was for Fox to go to commercial twice in the last 15 laps. That's true. We're not even talking about the fact they went to commercial with like 14 to go too. It literally didn't matter because nobody made a pass. True enough. I think it's just a matter of like, we don't know in the moment. And so that's what makes it so just aggravating. Fred Dog with the 5 says, thanks, Fox, for not giving us the names of the lapped cars that won it, so we can't either applaud or wedgie them at next week's race. Grumble, grumble. I don't think that was too big an issue, honestly. Andrew with the 2 says, Kyle Busch is the lull cow, just a bit too fast. Yeah, he definitely. That was just on him. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He had made the comeback. He had been up in the top 5 or 6 racing up front. And then he, sped. I mean, that's on him. Denny does it all the time too. Just a certified Kyle Busch choke job at this point. It seems he's been getting better and better at that. Russ says, anyone saying this race was boring clearly didn't watch a lot of the restrictor plate racing classics in the 90s with 4 cars in the lead pack. Yeah, I kind of talked about this earlier when I saw a lot of people putting stuff about the 90s in there and all that. And don't get me wrong, I don't think those races were all that great either. There were good ones, there were good moments. And I don't think it was necessarily boring because there were definitely good moments of this race. Like we're going to focus on the parts that weren't, but there were good moments of this race. Those should be focused on. Anyone who goes on Twitter and starts talking about how negative I am, clip that part and show them this. At least I'm defending it a little bit. But I think my point is just that it's not boring. It's just kind of just mediocre. And it's like, it's like in super speedway purgatory, if you will. Like we had the heaven of the great moments in 19 to 21. We also had some hell moments in there too. We've had horrible moments like 2000, 2013, like the 2000 Daytona 500 in general, that package that year until they changed it for the last Talladega race. 2013 wasn't all that great. Honestly, if Dale Jr. wasn't winning a lot of races, I don't think people would be lauding 14, 15, 16 as much when it was just leader seesaws between 2 lines. We definitely have room for improvement. And I think I think we can acknowledge that without completely dissing the race itself. But that's, I'll be a fence sitter on that one. Sly Supersonic for the 342 says 5 out of 10. Nobody even tried to win. I give up on 2025. I think part of it too is it's just without a bunch of people all working together in tandem, like 5, 6, 7 of them on the top, like they did at the end of stage 1. It is difficult to get a run that gets you past the guy in the top trying to turn it into middle lane. And unless you have a bunch of people working together with you, you're not going to be able to do that. And a lot of that could have happened if a lot of the teammates had stuck together, but they all got jumbled up and shuffled up with the pit cycle and with the blocking and with all of that. I think it's possible to break the gridlock. I do think it is. And that's why I say I don't think that the super speedway side is as aggravating as the short track side, which we just know is completely fudged beyond creation, needs to be completely reworked in every single way. But it's kind of aggravating, Let's see. Suede for the 10. We appreciate, sorry, I hate it. I have a frog in my throat right now. We all appreciate you doing these streams every race, Jarrett. Also gives me something else to listen to on my 5-hour drive home from the track. Hey, I hope you had a great time. I say, is anyone watching who was at the track who might have had a better time than maybe I did or people in the chat did? I hope you had a great time. And it seemed like the crowd was pretty healthy there. We've talked in the past of like Talladega and kind of the dip in here and there. I hope you and anybody else who's at the track had a great and amazing time. I hope you went on the boulevard. I heard it was more wild than usual. I hear there was a Bigfoot and Yeti sighting at one point. They had him on the grid today. So, I'm glad to be of service to you on this one. Fred Dog with the 5 says day 2 of Leg leading more laps in the top 3 NASCAR series this year than Brad Keselowski. Not glad, just sad like bad Brad, but a worse season can't be had. Nice rhyming. I appreciate the effort. God damn. Has Brad not led a lap this year? And then, yeah, here's the thing. Texas is next week. It's like, that could at least be entertaining in like the stupid wild way, Somebody let me know in the chat. Has Brad Keselowski led a lap or led if he's led less than Catherine Legg, and so he hasn't. Damn. Okay. So nope. Damn. And I'm leaving this up for a moment just because I appreciate the effort on it. And I think it's pretty funny. Um, let's see. New member for Alexander. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll have plenty of live streams to see lots of fun member chats back and forth with you. I think I accidentally missed one here from Raise Hail, Praise Dale for the 2 says Xfinity over Cup all year long. For the most part, I think I've been on the same page with that. Intermediates are probably the ones that Cup will be better than. And for anyone who's too upset, remember on the horizon, we do have Kansas, we have Charlotte. Nashville has been pretty good with this car. Believe after that's Michigan's pretty good. Pocono has had a dud last year, but a few races there have been pretty good. Atlanta. The summer is actually went from I would say is went from a point of the schedule where I was bored out of my mind, or I was like, oh, we got to get through these 5 or 6 races, to I actually am more excited for the middle of the summer now as a NASCAR fan than I am for the earlier part of the season like I used to be. Now, part of it's a car ruining some of the tracks, but that's a whole nother topic we can talk about on Wednesday night. Roddy 8 Diecast says the racing product is awful. Making moves is impossible without dropping like an anchor. Gridlock at the front without passing. We have fallen so far from 2019. So I'll agree. I think we have fallen far from 2019. But again, I don't think it's impossible to make moves. It's just you have to have so much help behind you, which makes it near impossible. But we saw people make moves today. And when they were actually racing, and trust me, I was on NASCAR.com. I was watching the throttle trackers. They were going 100%. The moves were able to be made. It's just really, really damn difficult compared to previous iterations of cars. It really reminds me of 2012 super speedway racing early in the year. Look back at the 2012 500, the Talladega race early that year. Even the summer race a bit, but that was better. But definitely the first 2 super speedway races of 2012, it was one line on the bottom, and then the second line could maybe make their way up, and then gridlock at the front. The tandem, though, was what bailed them out. I think that we're kind of seeing that cycle come back to it. I believe super speedway racing is actually closer than a lot of people do. It's just infuriating when we see it gridlock itself, the fuel saving, all of that together too. TJ with the 2 says, how about no caution with Nemechek? The no caution with Nemechek. Yes, good point. Nemechek coming out of the pit, spins onto the racetrack. I believe there weren't cars right there, but definitely cars coming. NASCAR holds the caution, swallows the whistle, lets them keep racing. I'll be honest, I think in the moment I thought that should be a caution. But at the same time, there were really no cars coming. Everyone had made it by. So I guess there is that, but it's like, it's just inconsistency. It's just full on inconsistency on NASCAR's part. I'm glad that it really didn't stifle anything strategy wise going on. But good point. That was one point I think I forgot. And I apologize for. I was perplexed by that. But I'll end up, there was no contact. No one really was nearby. So I think it can probably get a pass. But I think it's NASCAR judging result rather than the incident itself. So classic NASCAR, I think, is the byline there. Alexander says this track needs the spring date taken away. I disagree. The spring date, I think, is the healthiest date of the 2. It's the fall date that has a lot of the problems. And we don't need to take dates away from a lot of the tracks. We need to fix the car. The car is the common denominator here, not the tracks. Hunter Nixon Fishing, good to see you, man. For the 10 says, I was at the race today. Nice. My boy Larson had a shot at the end. Wish he would have won, but I'll take it. He could have. That's the thing, is Larson has been running up front in these races, and now he's getting the finishes, which a lot of people probably roll their eyes at, like, oh, greatest driver in the world, and he's, they were celebrating a fourth place finish, whichever race you're looking at. But it's more, those are the points he's going to need to get come the fall race. Those are the points he's going to need to get throughout the year to win that regular season championship, get those extra points, do all of that. Those are races that will definitely, if he's not looking at those and fans aren't looking at those, and you just dread it because he's going to suck, rather he might, get a top 10 and get those points. That could make a huge difference come, end of the year, whether it's this year, round of 8 track, remember, we're going full, chaos, or whatever new format comes in 2026, or new changes to the current format that come in 2026. Michael here, another, I always love putting your profile pic up with the poodle, just like mine, who's probably right outside the door because he's needy, saying Josh Berry's crazy day, bird struck and hitting the 77's tire carrier. So that one was on Hocevar for being too far out. But yeah, I did see Josh Berry at one point on his in-car. Used to see this bird fly up as a speck for a second, and then just big blotch of blood all over his hood or his windshield. I know it's probably morbid of me to laugh at that, but I follow Nature's Metal on Instagram, so it was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of like that. You could always look back at the Dale Earnhardt one, or like that pitcher who threw the pitch and killed a seagull as it was flying by. It's definitely going to be in like those compilation sports moments. Let's see. NASCAR Fanatic says, what can fix this is a better car, better fuel mileage, and awarding bonus points for leading laps and leading the most laps. I would love to bring those bonus points back for sure. I think they could incentivize guys to maybe go fuller, all out during it. You don't need to have a ton of bonus points, one for a lap, one for, most led, just like they did for the longest time before stage racing. And even before then, the +5, which is equivalent to that. Better car for sure. I think that's the big thing we talked about this whole time. Fuel mileage wise, it's like, I don't think you can really give them a bigger fuel cell at this point, just because at that point, they're going to go all the way to the end anyway, but they're going to play other fuel mileage games back and forth. Whether it's we'll save more into the next stage, or, if the caution comes out in the middle, we can then pit at a certain point in the first stage, save fuel until right at the end, and then save fuel at the start of the next one. They're going to do it no matter what. I think this is one of those things where like the toothpaste can't be put back in the tube fully. It's just mitigating it at this point. Hunter for the 2 says NASCAR 09 ass race. It reminded me of the old Eutechnic super speedway races where they would just basically just log up the track 4 wide. Let's see. The Sonic 24 says Xfinity and Cup is a night and day difference. Yeah, Xfinity, you're able to make those moves, pull out, do different things, on your own. Now this one, it's very much you're dependent on everybody else. Jets Mets. Damn, that's a rough life. For the 5 says, I think this is the best race at this track with this car. Still way better in Bristol. I would agree on both counts, actually. I would agree on both counts. I think this is probably the best Talladega race since the next gen was implemented. And it was way better in Bristol. Yeah, so I agree on both. Eric here, no comment, but for the 2, we're almost to the end here. And Kyle for the 5 says the attendance was phenomenal. People have to realize a lot of those empty seats in the stands are people in that garage experience. To a degree, yes. I don't think that was fully the reason, but probably a lot of them for sure. I know, like, I got last second passes at one point to the garage experience in 2022, and a lot of other people did. So that's probably a reason, but I don't think the full reason. Tyler Tinsley with the 5 saying, I'm not joking when I say the Alabama 500 was the best race of the weekend. Also, Jared, are you going to watch from? Probably not. I have more important things coming up, maybe at one point. But yeah, definitely rewatch that race. It's on old John Player, IDK Players channel. It was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to commentate over. So be sure to check that out if you have nothing else going on. I know some of you have 5-hour drives back, and this stream is not going 5 hours. We're ending probably within the hour mark of this stream. Gary Buki with the 10 says, did any of y'all see Hocevar slice through the pack down the backstretch, nearly spin, and save it with like 20 to go? Fox showed it, but must not have seen it. I got to look back. That was insane. Yeah, he put on a show coming back up through there, both before the pit stops and afterwards. He's love him or hate him. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch in the years to come. And then Gavin here with the 5 says, I'm not sure how the broadcast was, but in person, this race was awesome. Hey, races are always better in person. And I implore anyone, if you're not liking how the racing is on TV, go see it in person. Even if you know it's what's going on, it's not the greatest, still a ton of fun. I'm glad you had fun. The TV experience wasn't the greatest. But hey, you know what? We had so many of these commercials. I now ride the Dente, or I guess I still don't know what the hell it is. And the commercial was on over and over again. But all right, guys, that will do it. Be sure this Wednesday to be on Danny's channel. We'll be live for NWP. We'll be in here for the last time. And then we'll have the new place to look forward to for Texas weekend. I'll be live for all of those, hopefully, as long as the internet's hooked up, I guess. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I appreciate it a ton. I will see you this week, and have a great night, everybody. Later, y'all.